Welcome to The Hats. The Hats is a weekly podcast hosted by licensed marriage and family therapist and author Melissa Dumaz and attorney and business owner Kerri Harper-Howie. Listen in for practical tips on how to keep your hats upright, how to handle life when one of your hats gets lopsided, and plenty of real-life solutions to help you balance the many hats you wear daily.
Hello, Hatters, and welcome back to the Hats Podcast. I am your co-host, Melissa Dumaz, and I am here today with my co-host.
Hi, Hatters. It's Kerri Harper-Howie. I'm glad to be back with you again.
So, Hatters, as you can see, today we are talking about the fail fast hat. And before you have an visceral reaction, please note that we have the understanding that failing is a part of success. And if you have not heard that, if you have not experienced that, then this is especially the episode for you today. Kerri and I are both under the understanding that failing comes with the journey. There will be things that you will take on that will be a great idea, and there will be things that you will take on that won't be a great idea. But one thing that we are learning in this journey of being the best boss babe that we can be is that it is important to fail fast. And Kerri, I know for you, it was a quote that you heard by an amazing woman that prompted the title of today's episode and prompted this discussion. So tell us a little bit about failing fast.
Well, first, I want to say, I think something you said, sometimes it was a good idea, sometimes it was a bad idea. Sometimes a good idea still doesn't work out well, right? I think there's a lot of different versions of what this can look like. And, you know, there are moments in your life, Mel, where you are impacted by someone that you don't even realize it's happening. It just becomes a part of who you are. And, you know, I have shared with you openly, Hatters, about the fact that we had a family play place, an indoor children's playground, and I held on to that thing far longer than I should have. And I was sharing this story when I was on a panel with someone, and she said something that just really and truly struck me. And I will have admitted to her that I have stolen this line many times since then. But she said, "You should fail fast." And I thought that was such an interesting idea because it's so completely contrary to everything within me. But looking back on my personal experience, I'm like, this is brilliant. Not only is it like quick and easy to remember, but it just resonates as so true. And so when Mel and I were planning this season number 9, and we were going to talk about being boss babes, I first of all thought of this woman because she's such a boss, but I also was like, you know what? I wonder if she will come on our podcast and share with us what she means by this concept of fail fast. And so now, Hatters, in this season where we are showing ourselves and we are showing our guests, you can already see that we are so privileged to have with us today Miss Dee Robinson. So welcome to the show, Dee.
Listen, thank you. It's my honor to be here and good to see you again. And I also love the time that you and I were on that panel together.
We had a really good time that whole weekend. We'll save those details. Everybody doesn't need to know everything, but so Hatters, as you know, we never bring anyone to you without incredible experience and expertise. So let me share for a moment Dee's bio. Now, I'm looking at her bio now, Hatters, and it is long and detailed. So I'm not going to be able to share everything with you, but let me give you a little bit so you can understand the magnitude of the woman that we're speaking with. Dee Robinson is a dynamic and entrepreneurial leader renowned for her strategic thinking and analytical prowess, which she leverages to drive innovative solutions that propel businesses to new heights. Throughout her illustrious career, Dee has consistently demonstrated a unique ability to foster growth by integrating a deep understanding of customers, operational excellence, and untapped market opportunities. Her contributions have been lauded for creating value, nurturing talent as a strategic asset, and making a significant social impact. Dee's journey began in 1995 when she founded Robinson Hill Incorporated, a concessions management firm specializing in retail and restaurants at airports and unconventional venues. Under her visionary leadership, the company scaled operations while forming successful joint ventures and partnerships, now encompassing over 60 airport restaurants and retail stores. Notable brands and collaborations include Hudson Group, Frontera Grill, Ben and Jerry's, Farmer's Fridge, Potbelly, and Let Us Entertain You. In 2023, after teaming up with a Kentucky master distiller, Dee founded Good Trouble Bourbon, with a name inspired by the positive social change the late, oft-quoted Atlanta congressman was referring to when he talked about good trouble, necessary trouble. Dee's experience extends beyond her entrepreneurial ventures. As a former casino and video gambling industry regulator, she possesses deep expertise in compliance and governance. Dee's commitment to community and industry involvement is reflected in her co-chairmanship of PGA Works and her trusteeship of PGA Reach, the charitable foundation of the PGA of America. Dee's dedication as a board member is marked by her unwavering commitment to strategic growth, solution-driven guidance, and value creation. Her exceptional contributions have earned her numerous accolades, including recognition as a history maker, Chicago University Business Leader of Color, Private Company Director Magazine's Director to Watch, Women Inc.'s Most Influential Corporate Director, and Diversity MBA Magazine's Top 100 Women of Influence. Dee is not only a successful business leader, but also an accomplished author, with multiple articles published in Forbes, Waymaker, and Enterprising Women magazine, as well as books such as Snap It, Leading Forward, Living Bravely, and the bestseller Courage by Design. Dee holds an MBA from Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management and a BA in Economics from the University of Pennsylvania. She received an honorary doctorate in human letters from Kentucky Wesleyan College in May 2024. Dee's multifaceted expertise, unwavering dedication, and visionary leadership make her an invaluable asset to any board and a force for positive change in the corporate world. So that is not even everything. That is not everything about Dee. So once again, I want to say thank you so much for joining us on today's show, Dee. And I would like to jump right in if you're okay with it.
I want to do it. Let's go.
So as I mentioned already, and as Mel introduced this episode, you unveiled to me this concept of failing fast. So tell us what that means, because your resume is full of successes. But if you believe in the idea of failing fast, that leads me to believe that perhaps you have failed in the past. So what does that mean?
Well, first of all, I got a lot of failures about, and if you think about basketball players, and every time they shoot up a ball, I mean, they have more misses than they make them, if you realize that, and you keep trying. And this idea of failing fast, I'm going to start with something and say this. When I got the honorary doctorate, I did a commencement speech, and this is what I said to them. I said I was wasted, I was afraid, and I was broke. Wasted, afraid, and broke. And I mean, and thank you for that beautiful summary of my background. But the reality is I wasted too many moments worrying about what other people thought. I wasted time thinking that what I couldn't do. I, was afraid that I might fail and then lose everything. I might do this. And then I was broke. When I left my corporate job, I thought I had it all figured out. And then there was a moment when I could not pay my rent. That was broke. And so the journey has been one of many failures. And when we were talking and I was listening to your story, I recognized that at some point you have to understand that there's success and failure. And there was a moment, and I think it was a Forbes magazine article, and the title was Success and Failure. And I read it, and it was Smithburg, Uberoff, Strapsky. I mean, then a list of all of these very, very famous and successful people. And they had lost billions of dollars, had multiple bankruptcies, you name it. But it doesn't define who they are. And the skills that we have to get us to success, we still own and have. And now we just have to take the learnings from the failure to propel us to more success. And when we talk about failing fast, in many ways we know, I've pivoted from doing gift baskets, small this, just trying to figure it out. But I recognized early on that I was learning and as I go. And so you're going to keep repeating some of those failures if you don't take those learnings and pull them forward. And failing fast, I've had to learn to do that, whether it's with managing my business, people in my life, team members. But that's what I meant. But the first thing is just understanding that we have to first think about what's inside of us, deal with those fears, because the fears, when we talk about flow, there's a fear there. Oh, I don't want to give up. I put so much money into it. I've done this. Well, those are sunk costs. It's over. So when you're trying to figure out whether you want to move forward and if I stay, just understand, is it working for me now? And oftentimes I would, get out of a business because I also define KPIs. I said, look, if we couldn't manage $1 billion in sales, then why should I? And then when I'm like, I can do this, there's an opportunity cost there as well. So when I talk about failing fast, if I don't get out of this, that means I'm actually jeopardizing other opportunities that could lead to greater growth. So it isn't there, but that's the idea of understanding, what am I giving up? I'm so stuck in, and I'm going to say this. I imagine that some of this audience is female, same thing with men in your life. I'm going to be real on this broadcast. Yes. You need to let that go. It's gone. Oh, he's out so many years. It's over. You ain't getting those years back. What's good for you now and the future you see for yourself? What do you want?
Great questions.
Yeah, so many things in that. And I'll let you go in a second, Mel. I think you've said a lot, Dee. What resonates with me the most is really accepting and seeing, I guess, seeing that the power of success is still in you. The fact that you failed does not mean that what you have to succeed is not inside of you. And that, if you can believe that, you can continue to be hopeful. Think that is so, it gives me chills just to even think about it's in there. You own it.
First of all, we have everything we need right now to do whatever it is that we want. And part of my journey was also understanding that God wants us to have an abundant life. Now, are you willing to embrace it, trust it, have faith in it? I say I'm a faithful entrepreneur. And, the normal state of things is actually good. God wants that for us. But, again, we got to trust it. I don't know. You're always at, there's that little side, one person on this side, and then that little voice on the other. And my first book was about the voices in our head. And see, we actually don't, understand that the mind doesn't know the difference between a real and imagined thought. So if you keep thinking you're going to fail, guess what? And I always ask myself, why do it's so quick for us to think about and believe what we can't do versus what we can do? And it's just a question I want the audience to sometimes take a pause and say, is this real? And why can't I trust myself that I can have the success that I want in my life? Why not? And then I ask you, do you truly believe in him? Well, if you say yes, and then trust him, then go do that. And the failures are part of it. We look at all the things that the disciples and everyone had to go through but they had God trust to walk through that water, cross that, right? And when I realized it seems so simple because it's easy to say it. But live it, it's another thing. But when you do, and you're like, oh, wow, it's just like a muscle. And I say courage is a muscle. You got to keep trying. But if you keep propelling yourself forward, when you keep thinking about, all right, I can do this. If you keep telling yourself, all right, I got this, watch what happens. There's magic in those moments. In the book, when I ask people, in the book, it's called Snap It. Snap the band, and I have one on, I keep one on, because what I'm going to ask your audience to do is to do that. I want you all to wear a rubber band. And the moment you have a limiting thought, I want you to snap it And then in that moment, I want you to rephrase what it is that you just said that was limiting or negative in a positive way. I don't have enough education. Yes, I have all I need. And if I need some help, I can go get it. I don't have enough money. Well, yes, you do, because if it's a good idea, somebody will help you. And just because a few people have said no, entrepreneurs believe no means maybe and maybe means yes. Because one obstacle, one door doesn't mean you should stop. They may not just understand your dream. Somebody will. And the best lesson my mom taught me was that no one ever said it would be easy. So I don't want anyone to sit out there and think, all right, I'm going to just do this. You got to do the work. I call it, you got to help God help you. But you have to start thinking about those things, changing the mindset, understanding what it is, and then have a vision on the dream you have. And nobody can stop you but you.
Right. Very true. So many golden nuggets there when you were talking about, just because one person said no doesn't mean that the answer is no. And then you talked about the wisdom you've gained from your mother. I immediately thought about something my mom told me years ago, which was, she was like, one monkey doesn't stop the show. And which is true, so one person's no does not stop the show. And another, words of wisdom relevant here that I gained from my mom is, just ask. The worst they can say is no. And since we know that one person's no doesn't stop it, that's actually not the worst. It may be that they said no, and then we go to the next person, which may be the better fit, the better opportunity. And so don't be afraid of the no, just as we're talking about, don't be afraid of failing fast.
Or it might just mean not right now.
Right.
See, because our urgent may not be theirs. My very first venture, which was in Sears, which is interesting, I call this man every day, morning, noon, and night, ladies. And I'm like, man, I can't get them, because you got to get to that decision maker. That's a whole nother thing about failing fast. Because you might be talking to the wrong people, and people might say they can help you. So that's a whole nother conversation. But I kept calling and calling and calling. And finally, I realized and found out what time his gatekeeper left. So she would leave by 6. And I figured he's usually going to be in there after, because nobody leaves before their assistant leaves, generally. And then I called him. Now it was like, and I remember he picked up the phone and they were like, shoot, I got caught. But he called, right? But he, at that point, and I actually wrote about it with the book, because, he kind of like, she's a persistent, but that's it. Because sometimes I tell people, just because I didn't return your call doesn't mean that I wasn't interested. It just might mean that I wasn't available or didn't have time at the moment. Now you just gave up when all you had to do was wait for the door to open. And here I am talking to him, and then I will believe in the plan B, by the way, because I had this big idea, and I wanted to do one thing with them, and he was like, well, someone has an exclusive. And I remember this sinking feeling like, oh my God, all this time. But then I said, but by the way, and I could see the phone ready to go down. And I said, but I had one other idea. And that was the idea that he bought. So, I'm always prepared, because if you're going to go in and pitch something, make sure you're open to the different things that you can do, but more importantly, with value. Because see, I knew that I was bringing something that he could benefit from, or his customers. And when you also remember, you were reading something about value. What value are you bringing? Don't go there with your hands out. Too many people wait to, like, when they're out of a job. Now they only hear from me because they need a job. We have to build relationships. And that also, back to this whole idea of failing fast, there are certain people who should not be in your life. Well, let's just go there for one moment, because I call it the courage circle. There are certain people who will whisper in your ear, why are you doing that? You can't. And someone told me, well, why are you doing that? Why are you leaving your good job? Why are you, all of that? And sadly, so many people hear them and never go pursue their dream. But I'm here to share with you, I had the same experience over the course of my career. And I've learned this, what they're telling you is what they can't do. Right? That's their fear speaking to you. And yet you're here believing it, when in fact, they have no idea what you're capable of, your X factor, your dreams, your motivation, your gifts, your talents.
So let me ask you another question, Dee, because I hear you saying a lot of it is fear driven, and I can absolutely relate to that. I know that I, for better or worse, do a lot of things out of fear. I think I parent out of fear sometimes. I perhaps don't take opportunities professionally out of fear or just lack of belief in myself. Are there other things that you think people struggle with? Why do you think it's so hard for people to fail fast? What do you think are some of the struggles besides fear?
Well, one right right away I thought this. Well, I have to make it work. Again, worrying about what other people think. I gotta
Mhm.
make it work. I made a commitment. And you're running after something to prove what? Is it something for yourself or just for someone else because you put it out there and you don't want the embarrassment, right? That I tried something I didn't and you keep at it. That's one that comes to mind right away. Another one is what I said earlier is like, okay, it's my baby. I put all this time in it. It's three. I put millions, and then I'm gonna let it go. We write it off, and understanding that you actually aren't writing off zero. You've gained. There's richness in all of that time. So pluck out what was good, carry that forward, leave the rest behind. But the fear is just simply there. It's like, because now what the fear is that I'm afraid to go to the other thing. 'Cause I might fail at that too. So I'm gonna hold and be stuck in this one place when there's greater things ahead of you. But you're afraid because I had one failure, another failure, and then I don't want to have it anymore. And I'm frankly, no one thinks failure feels really good. But one of my favorite quotes is from Nelson Mandela. And he says, I don't lose. I either win or I learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so when you look at things that way, all right, Eric, I mean, you think about it and it's like, okay, so now I can go into things a little more open-minded, receiving everything I'm supposed to get from it. Now, when I decide I want something, I'm very focused, right? I'm gonna still say yes, yes, yes. And like, and you know, I have this new bourbon brand. Um, but I'm determined. But that means your creativity. And the other reason why this fear does not serve you, which is again what helped me early on and I learned, which led to the band, the first book, and the next one. I just know in those moments of fear, I cannot be my best self. You can't be your most creative. You can't be as a problem solver. The mind doesn't allow it. So you've allowed your mind to be full of this and you shut down all your talents. So when you understand that fear does that, now you have to learn to manage it. And when I wrote Courage by Design, how we move from fear to fulfillment, joy, and purpose, this fear was holding me back. I kept wondering what's going on. And then when I identified that, I'm like, okay, fear, look, I need you to put you in a corner for a moment. I don't have time for you. I got work to do. And it's just this, it's, and again, I don't want to simplify this, but the power of our mind and what we think about and what we believe that we can do is a driving force.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think for me, kind of what you're hinting at a little bit, and what I'll say I experience with our indoor playground is you get so tunnel vision on the need to succeed that you're not even maybe fully appreciating that you're failing. And so you're just pushing total failure down the road. But you're like, okay, but I didn't do that. Okay, well, let me think about that. And and all of you kind of mentioned this opportunity cost. So you're so focused on what are all, or I'll say I was so focused on what are the
We all
other,
do. No, listen, we all do that. Okay. Let's call it what it is. You're
right?
so I want you to understand that what you were going through, that's the other thing. You aren't alone. We always think that I'm the only one going through this. So, and nobody understands this. Some don't, but it's a journey. It's just part of the journey. And I love that you were realizing that I'm just trying to get done because you're on this treadmill in fear. All right, I got to figure it out because you don't want to fail. It's failure avoidance. At least that's what you think you are doing. When in fact, taking a moment and analyzing what's going on. And that's the other thing, is that you got to bring analytics to this. Did you get into the opportunity with solid data of true understanding of the market opportunity? Or was it just a passion of mine and I had a good idea and I leaped? And that happens with a lot of people with restaurants. They, right? It's like, I'm going to open a restaurant. All right. I know how to cook a great meal. All right. I know nothing about running a kitchen, operational efficiency, or any of those things, but I like to cook. And even for me, I actually thought I wanted to be a chef, ladies. So I used to cook around Chicago. I asked chefs, could I come in and cook in their kitchens? And well, first of all, they will let you. Many chefs will say, oh, sure. But I did a stint with Charlie Trotter because I thought I wanted to be a chef. But that one night alone taught me that, okay, I don't have the passion for this. I tell people, don't leap like I did. Work for free. They got to pay me. Well, you know what? It's interesting. You want somebody to pay you when you should be paying them in many cases, because they're allowing you to walk into their doors, show you what they're doing, trade secrets, whatever it might be. So I went in there like, okay. And then I left there realizing I'd rather cook. So I've cooked for my family. I actually wrote a cookbook, but at the end of the day, I am not a chef. But I also remember saying I wanted to own restaurants. So I was able to dissect what it is. It's the same thing with you. You have this idea, but maybe that idea or a piece of that idea you take to someplace else, right? It wasn't that idea. And I'm always looking at, well, all right, the market is this. I trust when I see a trend. I look for, and I say there's riches in the niches. So if you can find a niche, right? And where you can see a little opportunity, that I'll suggest you go for it. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to identify opportunities. But again, as we talk about failing fast, look at the research. I start, frankly, with a good idea, like what's instinctively something I want to do. I'm an intuitive entrepreneur, but then I go in and I support it with the right research and make sure that what I think I know is validated in some way. And I don't always trust every research, because our intuition, when we learn to trust it, it will guide us. And I also say to you, Kerri, that I know there's a part of your intuition I would ask that was speaking to you. And were we not willing to be quiet long enough? That's why I love to meditate. The answers are there if we will take a moment instead of always being on the move. I'm going to do something right now. Watch this. Even that little second is a little uncomfortable, but the quiet gives a moment of peace. And he's going to talk to you. I know that I have to do it to find answers, but that I would say that finding those moments, 5, 10, I try to push 20 twice a day, at least I get one in, but my answers come to me. How many of you actually have answers come to you while you're in the middle of the night while you sleep? The mind's racing. There's a reason for that, because your body and mind has been slowed down just a little bit to allow those voices to come to the surface.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. For me, it's a shower. The showers when it all flows. And I'm like, I need to get a notepad in here or a recorder because it just flows. Dee, I want to go back and highlight some of the things that you're talking about. I really love that you are also bringing in to the conversation about intuition, because naturally as business owners, we hear these stories, other people's stories, and even sometimes our own stories, like, I almost gave up and I asked that one last person and then boom, things changed for me. And so it is our intuition as well that can help to guide us to say in those quiet moments, yes, go and ask the next person, or no, we need to pull the plug because this is done. So the intuition piece is big. And I also just want to give a little bit of more information about the fear piece. You said, when we're living or when we're in fear, we are not making the best decisions, or we can't make these decisions. And so you're absolutely right. During those moments, we are in survival mode. And when we're in survival mode, our nervous system is in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And in those moments, we do not have access to our frontal lobe. And that is where these decisions take place. And that's why when we talk about kids, they're like, their frontal lobe hasn't even developed yet. They don't understand it. But we're in those moments when we are living in fear. And so you bring such a good point that even being in that fear, that's not a healthy place for us to even make a decision to even stay or to not go, because we don't even have access to our full capacity of our brain. And then in addition to that, sometimes that the idea, and I learned this a lot working with clients from relationships to business endeavors, that they fear that leaving is going to be the failure, when sometimes staying is the failure. And so we have to understand that too, that failure could look like staying too long as well.
You know what, Melissa, you are so right. And that a lot of people do. And I actually will say that's about me, that, I always gonna say, no, I actually would have failed had I stayed in the job. My mom did not understand. And that's again back to what people think and perspectives. Um, you know, she was my hero. I'm going to acknowledge her, because I always do, because I am her child, and I would not be here, ladies, without that amazing woman. And I'm going to not get emotional, because the reality is that she sacrificed so much for me. She saw how the world was. And times I thought she was really hard, but I realized that she was preparing me for it. And she did not want me to have the kind of hardships that she had, because they were limited just simply for the color of her skin, her sex, right? And so we have to acknowledge that we have to understand whose shoulders we stand on. We don't know hard in many ways. The folks before us and what they endured, the fears that they had, and yet they persevered. And sometimes I say that those who we need to lean in and watch. I looked at my mom and I was like, I don't know how she could do this stuff, ladies. It literally was mind blowing to watch her endure pain at times, work multiple jobs, make sure we were Helen's kids, by the way. So there's no messing around when it came to what we did. We were the goody two shoe kids in the neighborhood, but acknowledging that if we look at others and what they endured, we were literally built to slay dragons. We are. That is just who we are. And when we tap into that other source that's sitting there waiting for us to say, all right, what you gonna do with me? And that's why I say, and I don't say this flippantly, that we have everything we need. To what you were saying, Melissa, is that resourcefulness that we are gifted with if we're willing to trust it. And guys, I actually have never had all the money for most of my ventures. I'm like, I'm gonna do it, because I say a good idea will find the money. I'm in the midst of doing a race right now. I launched this brand. Again, I wanted to use bourbon as a tool, a social mission, and changing the world, and be a force to bring conversation, connection to people. And I'm still trusting that the money will come. But to your point, that next person, just keep at it. This is a game of resilience and trusting yourself. And back to your point, that intuition is there to serve us. And I had to learn that over time. I didn't always listen to my mom, so to get advice that we all know that there are people told us some things and we're like, they're right all along. But we got to go do it our own way. And that's okay. So, but back to Fairly Fast, if you can either listen and get there sooner, or you can do it your way and take longer. It's up to you. These are just choices. And before I forget, I was going to mention this circle that we have to put around us. Kerri, I know you have a circle, right? And Melissa, just getting to know you and hearing you, I know you do as well. We all have them. Now, are they the right circles? I know you guys do. But if there's not people in your life that encourage you, inspire you, or stretch you, you need to minimize your time. I remember listening to Kevin Hart talking about being on the corners all the time with the guys talking and everything, right? And he's like, at some point he had to say, yeah, I got to leave those guys alone, because they're all having a good time. And being an entrepreneur, by the way, it can be a lonely place sometimes, but that's okay, because that's where you need to be to build. There's Toni Morrison. I love her. And she talked about her own fears, by the way, Catherine Graham. So the other thing I did was started looking at people, studying them. And all of them talked about fear, but they managed around it, which is why I call the book By Design. We can get there. But Tony would say, oh, I had all sorts of fears, and she would get up early in the morning and she would literally work early. And you say you don't have time for things. We actually have the time for the things that matter most to us. I know. And so I don't have enough money. Well, that latte, that extra was this or that. I want to keep it real here because, the hats, I love the hats idea because we do wear multiple hats. By the way, I had to tell you this. I brought a hat. I brought two hats. So this,
Awesome.
I lost my dad and I leave it by my front door. And so, because this hat too represents something else. And I talked about my mom. We're going to be picking up more hats as our parents age.
Yes.
And that's another reality. But that hat carries so much responsibility back to the shoulders that we stand on. And so, and this hat here, which is our logo, equality, and that we got to fight for equality and equity in this world. The hats mean that we can do all the work, but we also have to give something back to our communities and know that each of us, no matter how small, can make the difference. We all have the power to influence lives, right? And that's another thing we get afraid of. And before my book, I was afraid that, oh my God, everybody's got something to say. There's nothing new here. Look, all the things we say to push our ideas down. Oh, there's nothing fresh. Who cares about what I have to say? Oh, I got to make it a big project. When I decided to just write it, thinking that I was going to help one person, I was able to sit at that desk every morning and write and not think about all the other things that I do try to manage. Be a bestseller, do this, do that, do that. No, just stay in the moment, give what you can, and that's it. And that helps alleviate a lot of those fears because I'm like, all right. But there's the power of one, and that's the other most important part of this is that we all have that power to just do something. And are you doing something even every day? However small, is it 10 minutes, 15 minutes toward a dream? Whatever it is, just a little bite-sized moments, there's the power of momentum that comes with that. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, that's why even with money, I don't care how much money anyone is listening right now has. There's still not too late for you to start saving a little bit. You're worth paying yourself first. You pay all your other bills before you. And that's how I did when I started the company. I was like, all right, one thing, by the way, always pay your employees. You don't want that problem. I saw too many people who were starting businesses and they decided I'm not going to pay it. Uncle Sam will come after you.
Yep.
That is
and karma.
Right. And
so
some
the whole
lawyers
karma thing is
and
that way,
government.
right? Universe working, right? What'd you say, Kerri?
I said, and some lawyers fighting for the employee. Oh, trust me, I know all those things.
Of all,
But it's worth mentioning.
Yep, I remember when I was working in banking, and a friend of mine, colleague's father he told me what had happened because he didn't, and another friend told me it out of Cleveland, and I'm like, man, I'm never going to do that. It's just not worth it. Right. So I didn't pay myself. But then when you start working out, I'm just as I was, the electric bill or all those other things. And even if it's a little bit, we always don't think we have enough to do this. Yes, we do. A little bit. And just the momentum of it. I had to do that myself, figured out that little way to keep at it. And then all of a sudden, you don't realize it, but the power of just seeing a little anything grow is
very powerful. So let me ask you one more question, Dee, on the topic of failing fast, because you've kind of mentioned a few of these few indicators, and I'm interested. I kind of wanted to combine kind of our last two questions because you mentioned that you were in the corporate world, you jumped ship, and because you knew it was time for you to go, and you felt like you knew what you were going to be doing. I would love for you to talk to us about failing fast in the corporate context, like as a corporate employee. What does that look like? And then and then kind of the second part of my question is, as an entrepreneur, what are some key indicators that it's time to let it go? So we know kind of what causes us or prevents us from failing fast. What are the things we should be looking for so that when we can, as you said, put that fear in the corner and we can really analyze it and you can see those indicators? What are those things? So it's kind of a two-part question.
Well, let's talk about the corporate world. I'm glad you brought that up. First and foremost, you should never work for any company that doesn't value you.
Mm.
If you are stressed and strained and don't feel respected, and by the way, looked up in the corporate ladder and recognized that there were very few people who looked like me. And what led to my departure was simply, I was this 30-day period working my butt off, stressed, all of that. And I was giving up on opportunities like weddings. First of all, I say I will never miss anyone's wedding ever again if I'm honored to be invited, because I can't tell you what work I was doing that kept me from that. But the memory of that wedding would stay with me. So that's one thing. But if you don't see that they're promoting people, if you don't see that there's a culture, then you figure out, well, what makes me so different? And I left Penn believing that I was going to be the CEO of some company. Little that I know would be my own. But when I was working that period, and then I sat down and I want everyone to do this as well, you determine what your hourly rate is. So we get these nice jobs and then these salaries, and then you're working 80 hours plus or whatever it might be, and then your health is at risk. Is it worth it? You might as well go work for a fast food chain. And I used to say another word, but there are certain companies, by the way, I mean, just as a sidebar, we have the power with our purse back to value. There are companies out there that we all know that have said no to DEI and supporting, female, African American, minority businesses. Well, you don't need my dollars. You're already told me, and yet this is a problem when we put our money in places and they don't value. So why would we put our time, our lives, someplace when they don't value you? Go to someplace that they do. Period. So that's how I would look at it. If you really don't see, you're on the treadmill, fear keeps people in jobs because they don't think they can find. Also, when you're looking for a job, don't go there looking for a job. Find the right place. Take a little extra time. Find a place. When people come to me looking for jobs, I'm like, are you okay? Well, take a moment. Are you really just looking for a job or a career? But most of us, I just need to make money, and they're going there and then they're going to be miserable. But I just believe in the corporate vein, to go a place of value too. If they want to succeed in those moments, back to fear, take on those assignments. You don't think you have enough talent. Most women do this more. I call it a confidence gap. But take on the assignments and show them what you can do. And be willing to just fail at that because even when they know that you take the chance, I was able to write early at Penn because I was crazy enough to raise my hand to a professor to help write his book. And I had no idea what I was doing. Didn't we just say that? But guess what we do? We learn, don't we? We figure it out. That's what we're talented at doing. And as an entrepreneur, the best thing I can do is that understanding that I say you need a passion because that passion will get you through those moments that are very difficult. Like, or I believe and I believe and I believe. But combining a passion and passion's just not enough. Let's be real. As I said, I did a quote. That's not enough. I do believe that preparation along with the passion allows you to go out there and create something great and set your own KPIs. What are your measures of success? And if you start checking off your list, this ain't working out, this ain't working out, this thing ain't working out, you already have a commitment of like, I've said that if it doesn't do this, I'm going to get out by then. Knowing how you might exit early if you haven't met your goals, because when you're in the thick of things, all of those goals go out the window. You're not looking at those and thinking about what did I really want to accomplish. And if you're honest with yourself, this is not really what I had in mind. I think we are all deserving to be wherever our dreams take us, but we can do it wisely, bravely, and smartly.
I love the idea. It's when you said, set the exit strategy from the beginning, right? It's almost like a prenup to me, which you're all in love, it feels wonky and it's technical and all those things, but if you do, and you hope you never have to use it. It's like just in case, right? You hope you never have to use it. But if you have it in that moment when emotions are at their absolute highest, anxiety, stress, mistrust, etc.,
Fear.
you have fear, you have a guidepost. And so I think that's the same thing. It takes guts to be able to say, at the beginning of a business venture, how am I going to know when I'm ready to get out of this thing? That in and of itself seems challenging and a little scary, but it just makes sense.
It's so funny. We fear those difficult conversations, of course, and we're trying to inspire them, because in those difficult conversations, that's where the riches really are. To your point, the emotion's not there, right? I can now logically think, well, what if this happens? It's the same thing with partnerships I had to learn early on, because for me, I understood that strategic partnerships will allow us to grow at an accelerated rate. But here's number one thing: only partner with those whose values align. Yes. Same thing with companies. If your values they're doing something that does not feel great, it is time to exit, because at some point it will fall on you. And so we were talking about the universe, right? So value alignment, partnerships, I saw so many fail, so it had me afraid to take them on. So what did I do? I studied them, looked at the things that people did, and make sure that partnerships were successful. And Kerri, they were all the things you just talked about. Writing down what could go wrong, how do we handle this? And then honestly, when I lost my mom, I thank God I had forced her to get a living will. So even though an emotion of that, everyone should have that, and you're crying and the unexpected happens. One person want to do this, one person want to do that. Nope, we can go right back here. Right. And writing, and that's actually what happened to us. And I can say, this is what she wanted. This is what we agreed to do in the moment when we were all of reasonable mind and body.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So Dee, I got your next book. Your next book is going to be The Protocol for Failure. Because what I'm hearing is that as we have a protocol for how we want our business to run at the start of it, we're also having a protocol for what does this look like when or if it fails. And we're, as you said, making this decision without the emotions attached to it. Here's the things that we're going to agree to. Here's what we're understanding. So when that point comes and we have to go left or right, oh, nope. Let's go back to our protocol, because we made it in sound mind and in sound judgment.
That is exactly right. And one of my daily affirmations is this: I live the vision of my dreams.
Mm-hmm. I love
so
that. That's
beautiful. See
beautiful.
the dreams. I know what it is. And then it's a nice way for me to course correct. Am I living or doing the things that are part of the dream and the places that are people that I envision being in my world, in my life? And when I say I'm living the vision of my dreams, and I'm healthy, wealthy, and wise. So I know that I want to identify, I talk about the identities. I know that I want to be a good mom. I know that I want to be a critical thinker, a reader. So the things that I have defined as my identity, then I now know that these are the things that I should be doing. And it allows me to course correct. And it allows also those fears and understand, no, I'm not supposed to do this. This is not a line. Because also you spend time do so many things and you do nothing well at all. And so, it's those sort of things that we look at and understanding that there's so much joy out there, ladies. What I love about this conversation, thank you all. This is a blessing to me, because we're all learning together. And it's the conversations like this that's something you said already. In fact, both of you said, I'm like, oh, that was good, right? So I'm going to talk about your next books too, but we have moments, but we learn from each other, and these conversations are so rich. And I'm so grateful for you all doing it, because I know people are listening each week, and saying, "Oh, I got that," and that's why they're tuning back in, because you're adding some value to their lives. It's like those cooking shows, it's like, I'm gonna just, you're not gonna make those meals exactly quite like that. But you know what? There's one little nugget or something I learned in that moment that I can carry forward. So I'm grateful for what you all do, truly.
Oh,
Thank
thank you.
you. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful that Kerri has had the honor and the opportunity to work with you and connect with you and to bring you to the Hats podcast so that I could meet you and then so that our audience could meet you as well. This has been very wealthy, very rich. And when we do these shows, or for me at least, there's always this harmony between like being here as the host or co-host, but then also being here as the listener, because there's so much that you shared that I'm keeping as nuggets for myself. So thank you for your wisdom and
No, it's
discourse.
my pleasure. And I'm going to end with this. As you know, I make bourbon. You mentioned that, Good Trouble Bourbon. And we are so thrilled with the success. But ladies, it's been a road. And I could tell you all the things that happened, that people try to keep me from that dream. So that's the other things, that those external forces. But when you're just passionate about it, we went out and won all the awards and people didn't believe in us. So also that's it, back to corporate or entrepreneurial. People will underestimate you. Don't care about what they think. Just go do you. And I've collaborated with, she says, the 8th generation master distiller. We've been getting awards. One distributor said, "Go get this award." He didn't think I could win. And I came out in our first year winning a silver medal at the most prestigious bourbon spirits competition in the world.
Wow.
Let them underestimate you.
Right.
Okay? The real failure fast is to fail fast with people who don't think that you can. That's what failing fast is, okay?
Okay. Snap, snap.
On that note, on that
Adjust
snap
your crown,
moment,
okay?
yes. As Melissa has already said, thank you again, Dee, for being here. We really appreciate you. This has been, I had that little snippet before, but it's so nice to even have this more personal conversation with you and all the things that you have shared with us today. So Hatters, before we close, Dee, how can our Hatters find you if they're interested in learning more about you, finding your books, finding your Good Trouble Bourbon? Is there a place? Tell us where we can find you.
Well, that's so kind of you. First of all, goodtroublebourbon.com is, we ship to 40 states. So if you go there and you're interested, we also just put some wonderful things out there on the website. So, and then we just launched officially in Chicago. So we're now in over 30 Benny's, A&S, and restaurants around town. I always say this is one thing: ask for the bourbon. Ask for the things that you want to see in your locations, because, if they don't know about it. If I was out last night, ask for Good Trouble, they'll start researching it. And then the book, we're on Amazon. We're about to, I'm 30 years this year. So you guys are a part of my 30-year celebration, 30 years in business. And we're about to relaunch the book, because I've been so blessed that my wish my publisher would have told me this, but they just printed another 10,000. And I'm like, and I actually know why more people talk about writing a book than do. It's hard, but then the marketing is even harder, but not impossible. Remember that. But in this 30th year, we're going to relaunch the book, because so many people had come to say that how it helped them in their own journeys. And it means the world to me. So using this 30 years to really understand this, that my mission really is to shorten the runway to success for others. I don't want anyone to take as long as I did to get here today. How we help them, how we help pull. So I will continue to write. I'll continue to do what I'm doing with bourbon, because they have to see it to believe it. So many people so count themselves out. So thank you for the opportunity for the books and the bourbon. That's what we live around here: books and bourbon. But more importantly, how we help, and we have a foundation as well. We're doing a lot of work in communities. We want to have a positive impact, but the brand is really about connection, conversation, and positive change. So thank you.
Amazing. So everybody go out, and I will say, I think the day she announced Good Trouble, I was on a panel with Dee. So that was not even a year ago. And Good Trouble is already winning awards. I tasted it and I know why it's winning awards. So congratulations on all your
Thank you so
success.
very much. I appreciate you guys so. And thank you all, the mini hatters out there. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you, everyone. As you know, Hatters, we thank you so much for listening. And as always, we tip our hats to you.
The information in this podcast is provided for general informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal, medical, or therapeutic advice. Listening to this podcast does not take the place of developing an individual relationship with a therapist or attorney. If you need help for mental health or legal issues, we strongly encourage you to find a professional in your area who can help meet your individual needs.